Hello, and welcome back to The Dirty Truth. This is going to be a video that was requested by Ann Hintz. I did a video as a challenge to Professor Dave, and it was a response to a challenge that he did for Mr. Hovind. He says Mr. Hovind, who's Dr. Hovind. So I'm going to answer the questions that he proposed to Dr. Hovind in his video. And it's going to be a long video because I got 5 questions to go through here. So let's get started. His very first thing that he tries to beat into the ground when he was debating Dr. Hovind is, what is a kind? And he kept saying that nobody will define what a kind is. Well, I'm going to. All right. So his first questions start off by attacking the Bible. Now this is going to show how small-minded he is. This is supposed to be from a professor. All right. He wants to know about the Bible verses Leviticus 25:44 and also Numbers 31:17. He wants to defend the validity and modern relevance of these passages. You can't just read one verse, right? You have to read it in its context, in the way that it's used. So in Leviticus, like I said, he wants to know Leviticus 25, verse 44. So if you read chapter 25, verse 39 through 55, all right, that talks about the usage of bondsmen, or what we would call slaves. It's not really a slave, but that's what he's trying to say. He's trying to bring slavery into the argument, right? This explains how a person can sell themselves into slavery back in the Old Testament. So it's no different. What's the relevance of that today? It's not relevant today. All right, that's no different than reading the old American slave laws or any other slave laws in any other country. They're not relevant today because there is no slavery. Now, do we still have maids and butlers? Of course we do. And it works the same kind of way. The difference in today's day and age is they're not paid a lump sum of money to start with. They're paid a weekly salary or bi-weekly or a monthly, right? So back in the Old Testament, this person would say, hey, I will be indebted to you for X amount of years and for this amount of money, and this is what I'm going to do. And so that person, the master, would give that person whatever the agreed upon money was, and then he would give it to his family. And now that person stays with the person that gave him the money to work off the debt. That's how it worked. Numbers. He wants to talk about Numbers. Numbers chapter 31, verses 13 through 17. All right. Again, cherry picking, because this talks about killing off people, right? Well, if you take it into context, this was to fight a disease from spreading, or prevent a disease from spreading, right? So you got to read it in context. So, and as a professor, he should know that. It just shows how simple-minded this guy is. So I would love to. I will debate you on any part of the Bible you want, and hurt your feelings every time. All right. So the second and the third question, this gets into what is a kind. And so I'm going to read the questions, but then I'm going to answer them in reverse, because the answer to what is a kind actually explains the answer to number 2. So the second question is, explain specifically and mechanistically on the molecular level why you believe it's impossible for evolution to have common ancestor. All right. So what he means by that is common ancestor. So over several billions of years, and many millions of intermediary species, all of the current life on Earth, why couldn't a common ancestor eventually produce what we see, right? All right. So I already explained this with what a kind is, and that's what the third question is: define kind. Okay. And again, he wants to know specificity, and he wants to explain mechanistically how all of the species on Earth today can have derived from the original kinds. And I'm going to use, because everybody likes to use dogs, I'll use dogs for this example. But I mean, you can pick any type of animal. So what is a kind? Now, I've done a video on this. This is also part of, I've got this in 2 different videos. One video is what is a kind for the evolutionary debate, and it's also in a response to a challenge to Mr. Kent Hovind from Professor Dave, where I challenged Professor Dave to a debate. So the short answer of what a kind is we know how animals reproduce. They reproduce sexually. So you have to have, from nature, you have to have a naturally mating pair. So you have to have a male and a female that would normally mate in nature. So what I'm not talking about, because what we can do in science is we can make a cat that glows. And the way science did that is they took some jellyfish DNA and some cat DNA and they mixed them up and they made a cat that glows in the dark. Cats and jellyfish don't breed in nature. So that's something that we did in a lab. You're talking about evolution here. So from the way back at this amoeba, how did we get all of the stuff that we have today, right? So what is a kind? A kind is if you take a naturally breeding male and female, so you got an egg from the female and sperm from the male, and you fertilize the egg, and you mix that up any way you want to. Do whatever you want to, but you can only use the information from the egg and the sperm. And then you put that back into the mother and let the mother carry the baby to term and deliver it. Whatever that baby is, same kind. Okay? Now, the reason why I say I'm going to use dogs, we'll talk about cattle too. But dogs on the ark, so we've got all kinds of dogs today. Big dogs, little dogs, furry dogs, bald dogs, whatever. But they can all be traced back to common ancestor of the wolf, which is a dog. So the original male and female on the ark had all of the DNA required to make all of the dogs that you see today. All right, and cattle is the same kind of way. We try to change cows. We eat cows, right? So farmers, they do this every year all over the world. They take the best genetics from a bull and put that into their herd, and that's to make a better cow that we can eat. And it never produces anything other than cows and bulls. All right, so like the point to that is in my what is a kind video. All right, if you're going to use the cows, so let's say 80% of the 94 million cows reproduce each year. That's just in America, right? This number will stay roughly the same because we eat them. So that would be 75,200,000 births per year. So over 500 years, that's 37,600,000,000 new cows and bulls. It's never produced anything except a cow or a bull. You've never gotten a sheep out of it. You've never gotten a moose out of it. You've never gotten a cow out. A cat out of it. It's always a cow or a bull. Okay. And then I'm not even going to get into the humans and chimpanzees and all of that stuff. So I've explained what a kind is in detail. It's in DNA. So you take a naturally breeding male and female and fertilize an egg with the sperm and with the father's sperm and the mother's egg. Mix that up any way you want to, and it's always going to make the same kind. That's what a kind is. So when you go back to the ark, or when you go back to creation, when you talk about Genesis, it lays it out in the very first chapter of the Bible, how God created what he created. And those are the different kinds. So evolution doesn't go back to an amoeba. There is common ancestor, but it goes back to a bunch of different kinds, not an amoeba or, this soup that the amoeba came out of. All right. So then he goes on to talk about the ark. this is fun. I can't believe he's got specific questions that he wants to know about for the Ark. Okay, we found the Ark. Ron White in 1978 found it in the mountains of Ararat. All right, on June 20th, 1987, in the mountains of Ararat, Turkey, the country, officially recognized the discovery of Noah's Ark. All right, so that's laid out in a video called "The Real Noah's Ark Found" by archaeologist Ron White, W-Y-A-T-T, and it's a short documentary. Okay, that was recorded in a history book called the Bible. So it's not even an argument of whether or not the boat existed. Now it's an argument of, could the boat have housed the animals like it's recorded? Absolutely. And that goes back to what a kind is. So in the days of Noah, the animals that were chosen by God to go onto the ark would have been the best genetic possible candidates. Best genetic male, best genetic female of that kind, right? And so that's like with the dog. So you got the wolves, and all of the dogs today, from Chihuahua to Great Dane to German Shepherd to whatever you pick, all trace back to the wolf. So you can take the wolf's DNA, a female wolf and a male wolf, and you can make from that DNA all of the types of dogs. Now, what you can't do is take the DNA of a Chihuahua and then make a wolf. It doesn't go backwards. All right, and that's laid out in other videos where they explain short-haired dog, short hair and long hair, and how the genetics are centralized, and then like the animal migrates to a warm climate, so all of the long-haired dogs would die off, only leaving the short hair. So now you don't have the long-haired gene. We do this with snakes. They do this thousands and thousands of times a year with snakes. Snake breeders find a trait that they want in snakes, and they breed for that specific trait. That's the reason why albino snakes are so common today. That's a genetic mutation that you can breed into the animals. So they found the first one, and then the way that they check it is they take the offspring and breed it back to the parents, right? And we're going to get into this in a minute why we're not for inbred, right? That's also some of the art questions, but that's how it's inbreeding is how they prove the gene, right? For reptiles, and you can do that between 4 and 8 times before there's any real genetic defects. So, what does he want to know about the ark? Why do so many species live exclusively in specific parts of the world, and why did they go to a specific continent and nowhere else? So, and then how did they get there? All right, so this is the first 3 questions for the ark. This is a geography question. So, a couple of thousand years ago, during the Ice Age, where the North America and Canada was frozen, we know that there was land bridges. That's not even debated by geologists. We know that from all of the continents on the world during the peak of the Ice Age, you could have walked anywhere. So after the ark came around, and then the Ice Age happened, the ice would have taken the water out of the sea, so it would have dropped the sea levels, exposing the land bridges, and then the animals could have migrated to wherever they wanted to go. Now, why did they go to specific continents or specific places? Probably because of the weather. So if they were short-haired animals, or they liked warmer climates, they would have went to the warmer climate areas. Now, as the ice started to melt, the land bridges disappeared, right? So like in between Alaska and Russia, in the wintertime that still freezes, so you can still walk from Alaska to Russia. It's what, 15 miles across the Bering Strait, and then, you know, during the Ice Age, that would have been land right there, or it would have been frozen over solid, and you could have walked anyway. So that's just one example. But as the ice melted and the land bridges went away, now these animals are trapped on, you know, the warmer climate islands, which is why they would have adapted to those warmer climates and they would look the way that they look today. And then he also asked about a trail of fossils that you think can form in a year. Now, I don't know what he means by this question, because this is something that he's proposed to Dr. Hovind, and I'm trying to answer it. So I don't really understand the question here. We know how fossils were formed, and that was during the flood. So you had a mass flood, all the animals die, all of the, you know, everything dies, and then it's covered rapidly by sediment, and then that creates fossils. So after the flood, when everything's migrating, you know, it's not getting covered by sediment, so it wouldn't produce any fossils. So if animals just die in nature, they don't just produce fossils. They have to be covered rapidly by something and then sit there for, you know, for a while, and then that's how you get the fossil. So you wouldn't have normal fossils today all over the place. Now there's some exceptions. If stuff gets caught in a mudslide, or like during volcanic explosions, like Mount St. Helens, they created that. You know, that created some petrified trees out in the lake, where the trees got buried rapidly in the lake, in the geologic column, and so now it says that the column is millions of years old, but you got one tree that goes all the way through the different levels. That's crazy. It happens rapidly. So again, this is something testable and provable. Now it says, as far as the Noah's Ark, how did Noah's party, talking about his 3 sons and their wives, populate the world, and where did all the races come from? Oh, I love this question, because again, it shows how simple-minded he is. How many races do you think there are on planet Earth? There's one race called humans. There's a lot of different color variations, and that's from melatonin. There's only one race, the human race. All right? There are several different videos that you can watch that explains this. There's the 3 sons of Noah question. Science can, we're so good at reading DNA. Not only can we prove that there were, you know, it goes back to Noah's 3 sons, but if you do a DNA test, they can tell you which son you're related to. That's how good the testing is these days. They can tell you which one of the 3 sons you're a descendant of. So I don't even understand. It's like, do you not keep up with your science research? You know, you just throw these questions out and hope people don't really understand what you're asking. I don't get it. And then he wants to know why we're not all inbred, right? So this is laid out in the Bible again. So according to the Bible, in Leviticus chapter 18, 1 through 30, that's when marrying your close kin was deemed not okay by God. All right, so from Adam and Eve all the way up to Moses, it was okay to marry your sister. It was okay to marry your first cousin. Okay, that's how we populated the earth. If it only started with 2 people, of course the brothers and sisters married. But you start with perfect DNA. Adam and Eve were created perfect, and they were kicked out of the garden because of their sin, right? So their genetic bloodline, or their genetic DNA line, was perfect. It took that long to deplenish the DNA down enough where now close relatives would become a problem with birth defects. So the law was given to Moses by God. So before this point, like I said, it was okay. And like I was talking about with snakes, we do this in the animal trade all the time. We do it with dogs, we do it with cats, we do it with snakes, we do it with birds. Any animal that you can go buy, they do this to. All right, they pick traits out, and then they breed them specifically for those traits. And then the way that you prove a trait, especially in snakes, is you breed the offspring back to the parents. And then that pinpoints the trait that you're looking for. And then those babies, you do it again, and then you do it again. And then after between the 4th and the 8th time somewhere is when you start having weird defects. You start getting really, really weird things on the tail. Sometimes you have two-headed snakes. But that's when they're after a specific trait or a specific color for a snake. No different than with humans. If you want a specific color for a human, you just take the starting colors that you want, and then you start breeding humans, right? That's how you would make different color humans. So when you talk about how do we get all of the races, there's only one race, but there's a bunch of different colors. So it's levels of melatonin in the skin. So the more melatonin that you have in your skin, the darker you are. So if you take somebody with a lot of melatonin and somebody with very little melatonin, and they have a baby, that the baby is going to have a medium level of melatonin. So you're going to have really, really dark people and really, really light people, and then everything in between. What you don't see are people that are green or purple, right? You don't see that because that's not a characteristic of melatonin, which is what gives us our color. All right, so like I said, for the snakes and for the animals and for, everything that we buy and sell on the animal trade, they do this over and over and over and over and over and over and over every year, all right? But it never produces anything except the type of animal that they've bred. So dogs have never, ever, 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 not once produced something that's not a dog. And cats haven't done it, birds haven't done it, snakes haven't done it, crocodiles haven't done it, whales haven't done it, cows haven't done it. You pick any animal in the history of animals, they've never done it. You talk about these hundreds of millions of intermediary species. Give me an example. What are you talking about? Because there's not any. All right, so I've answered all of the questions. The DNA, they go to the heart of this debate. The DNA is what's at the heart of the debate. That's a molecular, cellular level. Every cell in your body, with the exception of, if you're male, with the exception of your sperm, or if you're female, with the exception of your eggs, contains all of your DNA. So the egg only has half. It only has one strand, and the sperm only has one strand. So that way, when they fertilize each other, the strands mix, right? So with the exception of the egg and the sperm, every cell, every structure in your body has DNA in it. And it can only make what's coded. So it can't make a new code. No matter how you mix it. You can't take the egg and the sperm and mix it up and make something other than what's already coded. You can't rewrite it. All right, so I've given you firm definition of what a kind is. That's the firm definition. In doing so, that definition destroys evolution, right? And it's not me. That's God in the Bible. God breaks it down in Genesis, in the book of Genesis, first couple of chapters, right? I broke down Noah's Ark. that a sixth grader can understand. We found it. It's real. I don't know what the argument is there. Could all of the animals fit on there? Yep. Ken, what's his name? Ken Ham, where they built the ark up in Kentucky. I think it's Kentucky. They got a room down there. They show you how it's done. They break that down very, very specifically. How and they show you, they built an ark that was 515 feet long. That's what they found in the mountains of Ararat, right? So they built one to the dimensions of what's in the Bible, and then they break down all of the rooms. They show you where Noah and his family lived. They show you where the animals lived. They show you how they stored all of the food. Just go visit the ark. They'll show you. So yeah, Noah's Ark is real, and it's possible to have done what God said it did. All right. And then I've corrected you on the human race. How many races are there? There's one. There's one race called humans. There's a lot of different colors, but one race. All right. The best part is I'm not even educated. All right. I don't have a college degree. I'm not pretending to be a doctor or a professor or none of that stuff. So you beat up. I didn't answer the last question that you proposed because that was a direct attack on Dr. Hovind's the fact that he's a doctor, right? So you're attacking the way he chose to get his doctorate degree. And there's all kind of ways to get different degrees these days, and you can do all kind of degrees online. You don't ever have to step foot into a college. And more power to you if you want that education. I didn't need it. I'm retired military, and I've got 2 trade schools. But I don't see how that's relevant at all, because you're a professor, which means, or you say you're a professor, which means that you have all of this schooling, under your belt. And I have no schooling under my belt, and I just destroyed every question in your argument. I don't need college. I got the Bible. It's right here. Look, that book. Everything you want to know is in this book. Now, just because you read it and then don't accept it doesn't mean it's not true, right? So I don't know what else you need. So I can debate you. We can do a live debate on these questions that you proposed to Dr. Hovind. I'd love to hurt your feelings again, where we got some back and forth. Or you can respond to my my challenge for you, because I've asked you some questions kind of in the same format, right? We can debate those questions or these questions. It doesn't matter. I'll hurt your feelings, and I know you're not going to, because I've given you what a kind is, and that is provable, testable, and repeatable. We do it millions of times a year, or if not billions of times a year. It's done. We do it on purpose millions of times a year, and it's probably done billions of times a year in nature. That's how nature reproduces everything that's on the planet. So whether we're trying to intervene or whether it just happens naturally, no animal ever produces something other than what the mother and father is. So now I will give you that we can do it in a lab. But like I said, jellyfish and cats don't mate. So that's just playing God. That's not actually what you see. So let me know what you think. Please respond. I'd love to destroy you on a debate. We can debate these topics. We can debate the Bible if you want. We can talk about Noah's Ark. Anything that your little simple mind wants to do. And I'll hurt your feelings over and over and over and over again. And I have no education. Let me know what you think. Add hints. I hope this answered some questions for you. Please like and subscribe and leave some good comments. I like to talk about anything y'all want to talk about. Let me know what you want to hear. Thank you. Y'all have a great day.